Welcome to the Monday news on the mufcMPB channel. We have a lot to get through today, whether it's links to Jeremy Frimpong, potential sales of two absolute superstars, or our brand new sporting director coming in. There's lots of news on this fantastic Monday morning. Now, to start off us is a massive story from Christian Falk and Court Offside is that Manchester United have held concrete talks with Bayer Leverkusen's Jeremy Frimpong, and he has a £34 million release clause. 34 million in this day and age is nothing. Literally, we spent 50 on Wan-Bissaka, and Jeremy Frimpong, he's quite a good player. I have got a couple of websites here that I often use for player scouting. That is FBref and Transfermarkt. But I cannot believe that Jeremy Frimpong has such a low release clause. The only issue for me is that Bayer Leverkusen have officially just won the Bundesliga this weekend, just gone. Does he want to leave that project behind? Xabi Alonso has obviously committed to an extra year at Bayer Leverkusen. There is a very exciting project there. They could go unbeaten in the German Bundesliga. Would you want to leave that behind? Now, obviously, Manchester United, knowing us, will offer him quite a lot of money. Hopefully not ridiculous amounts under the new regime, but it's what we tend to do. We offer the big bucks and we sometimes get the players come in. But I think for Frimpong himself, will he see the project at Bayer Leverkusen for one more year? Because we all sort of have an understanding that in 2026, Xabi Alonso will go to Real Madrid and replace Carlo Ancelotti. So for one more year, will Frimpong stay at Leverkusen with Xabi Alonso and try and win the Champions League? I'm not being funny. With the way they've played this season in the Bundesliga, they are capable. They have absolutely stormed the league. They are unbeaten. They are looking to be in the semi-finals of the Europa League as well after beating West Ham 2-0, I believe it was. So are strong candidates to win that as well. It's a very, very difficult project to leave. I don't know if he's going to do it, but 34 million is an absolute bargain. And again, I think we need to touch on the level of the actual source itself. Christian Falk is an absolutely massive source. He doesn't come out of a lot of rubbish that often. He is a very good source indeed. And if he's saying we've held concrete talks, well, there's been a conversation at least, and he will know the release clause of £34 million as well, being one of the biggest German news reporters in transfers. He will know it all, and that is a massive piece of news from him. Now, to look at some of Jeremy Frimpong's stats, FBref is my go-to website. It's quite good when you look at what he does, especially going forward, which we don't know who the manager's going to be next year, whether it's Ten Hag, whether it's Gareth Southgate, who does play a 5-back system as a right wing back. It still could work. Graham Potter obviously got a lot out of Reece James as well. It's a difficult position because it really does depend on our manager next year. If it's Ten Hag, that Dutch connection links up again. If it's a 5-back manager, having him as a right wing back, exactly how he's been utilised at Bayer Leverkusen, could be massive. Because if you compare him to other fullbacks, he's in the top 1% in non-penalty goals, non-penalty XG, top 2% in shots per total, top 8% in assists, top 6% in expected assists, top 1% in non-penalty XG and expected assists per goals, and top 6% in shot creating actions. This guy is an absolute demon going forward. In terms of progressive carries in the top 2%, successful take-ons, top 3%, and touches in the second area, top 1%, and progressive passes received, top 1%. So he's a very aggressive attacking right back. So as a 4-back system, would he be able to do defensive work? Well, when you look at the fact he's in a really low state in tackles, interceptions, blocks, clearances, and aerials won, defensively, that's not why you sign him. You sign him to be a very aggressive attacking right back, and I think he can do it. Based on the stats he's had this year, he is a very, very good going forward right back. There is no doubt about that. Can he deal with the physicality of the Premier League? Well, he's doing well in the Europa League, playing up against West Ham. He looks absolutely fantastic. When you actually watch him play, he is such an exciting fullback. Looking at his stats this season, it's not often you see a defensive player have 38 games, 12 goals, and 11 assists. That's James Tavernier in Scotland sort of levels, that is, where the player is a massive anomaly. You look at him and you go, oh, he's playing in the Scottish League. Fair enough. This is Jeremy Frimpong playing in the Bundesliga against Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, Borussia Mönchengladbach, a whole host of massive teams. He's got 12 goals, 11 assists in all competitions, 8 and 8 in the Bundesliga alone. It's a fantastic signing. And again, to go back to it, £34 million. Simply cannot get a player of an elite level like that for £34 million. And actually, that's what the first comment here over on Twitter says. Yeah, this would be an elite level signing for £34 million. You can't go wrong. We need to move quickly, and I couldn't agree more. If we want to get this deal done and we're serious about bringing in a brand new right back, which, to be honest, I think Dallo has been one of our player of the seasons this year, but we probably do need a second one. Wan-Bissaka's been good. I just think if we're looking to take the next step to that elite level, Jeremy Frimpong going forward offers us so much. And for 34 million, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. I mean, he is just absolutely ridiculous. There isn't a right back to compare him to. We look at Grimaldo, who's the left back there, is exactly the same. It's ridiculous the way Leverkusen play. That is the only thing. Is he going to be one of them players which is a massive system player because of the way Xabi Alonso plays, because he's given so much freedom, he can do whatever he wants on that wing-back role? Is it going to be one of them cases he comes into a full-back system where Ten Hag's going to do this progressive play and he's out of position and he can't defend very well and bits like that? We really don't know. But £34 million, I think, is certainly worth the risk. I mean, just for example, in comparing him to Diogo Dalot, who, like I said, has been one of our player of the seasons this season, in that right-back position, you can see from the graph alone, he's asked to do a hell of a lot more defensive work at Manchester United than Frimpong is over at Bayer Leverkusen, so that does worry me. Going forward, he doesn't get quite as high up. Dalot is a very good attacking fullback as well. I think it's actually underrated how good he is at it. We just don't have the opportunity for him to get in the box and score goals and give assists, all of that malarkey, and I think Frimpong would almost fall under the same category of, yes, he's fantastic at it, yes, it's one of his best traits, but is he going to be able to do that in the Premier League? Will he be able to? I mean, we saw on the weekend against Bournemouth. When we go forward, we look so vulnerable in the attack, and having a fullback like Frimpong, is that just going to make us even more vulnerable? I mean, it's the exact same for Wan-Bissaka. Defensively, he is used so often. He hardly ever gets to go forward. And of course, he isn't the greatest going forward attacking fullback. Maybe there's a reason we're not utilising fullbacks because Ten Hag actually wants much more attacking aggressive fullbacks like Frimpong. And maybe that's the key to unlocking this weird Ten Hag system, which I can't get my head around. If that's the key, and he thinks this is the big signing to get him there, and he thinks Luke Shaw can get back fit and he can be that attacking left back, go for it. If it's going to work and you trust it, I trust that he, I think it's so difficult because I don't want him in to be next season. That's a completely different topic of conversation with Ten Hag. But if that's what the United board is saying, we're going to stick with Ten Hag, then we've got to back the manager. And if backing the manager, he thinks get an attacking, aggressive right back to mirror what Luke Shaw does on the left, then it's what we've got to go and do. And if that means our defenders aren't defending so much and they are completely aggressive on the attack, then that's what we do. Is it going to work? Based on this season, not an absolute hope in hell, but we shall see. I think it's interesting to compare Dalot to Wan-Bissaka and then to Frimpong as well, because the graphs are completely different. They are completely different players. But that is enough about Jeremy Frimpong. It is time to move on to a story here from Samuel Luckhurst, where Erik ten Hag has addressed Alejandro Garnacho personally after he likes on social media on Saturday. Manchester United spokesperson said the matter was dealt with internally, but declined to clarify whether Garnacho has been outright disciplined. Now, obviously, we saw the posts on Saturday when Garnacho was pulled at half-time, which for me, he was having a bit of a stinky game, to be honest. He wasn't playing very well, but he has been the guy this season that has bailed Ten Hag out a hell of a lot. He is 19 years of age, and to pull him off at half-time when, arguably players out there are playing worse, if not the same level, given what he's given for you this season, that's a little bit rude. And Garnacho decided to retaliate, which isn't good at all. Same for Amad Diallo, the exact same thing, doing the zipped up emoji. I think Garnacho did that as well. And then he also ended up liking posts from Mark Goldbridge saying basically how Garnacho, shouldn't have been hooked. It was unfair on him. And, he's scared, the manager's scared to drop big players and stuff. And Garnacho liked them. That's not good at all. You cannot be having that social media presence and liking pictures and liking comments about the manager behind his back. It's going to come out with Manchester United. Anything Garnacho likes, anything he does on social media, whether he likes it or not as a 19-year-old, is going to get back to the club. It is so stonewall. It's ridiculous. Look at Mick Beale. He had a separate account calling out the Sunderland owners, and people found that. So Garnacho, on his actual Twitter account, liking a post, slating the manager for taking him off, not a good look at all. I know we have got another story on that by Rob Dawson as well. Just mentioning that Manchester United are content that Alejandro Garnacho has backed away from a potential row with Erik ten Hag after liking social media posts criticising the manager. However, Garnacho's actions will be dealt with by Ten Hag. So the page from Rob Dawson rather than Samuel Luckhurst makes it sound maybe like there is going to be a punishment. Obviously, we have seen it's nowhere near the likes of Sancho, where Sancho refused to back down, refused to apologise. I imagine Garnacho's gone in there today, completely apologised, held his hand up. He's going to take a fine on the chin, or maybe he'll be on the bench for the next game. I don't think you can really do too much more of him, really. He's liked a few posts. He's 19 years of age. It's the first time he's really done anything like this. I think he turned up late to training once last season. He was dropped for half a game. Probably going to be a similar thing. He'll be dropped for, be put on the bench for a game, bring on at half time. He'll score, he'll shush the crowd, and we'll move on with it, and we'll get our star boy back. I think he's been fantastic this season. He has bailed Ten Hag out so many times, and we should be very thankful for the season he has had. I think it's completely different to the Sancho scenario, and even Rashford. Rashford seems to get himself in little hints and spots of bother with Ten Hag or with the club. And he apologises, he wipes his hand of it, and we move on. I think that's exactly what's going to happen here with Garnacho. It's what's happened before with the late training. I think it's going to happen again. He's got a good head score on him, to be fair. But, there is also the world where Erik ten Hag doesn't keep his job, and some Manchester United players are delaying decisions on their futures as they expect Ten Hag to be sacked in the summer. That's probably someone like Jadon Sancho, who, if we're going to go in a little minute about Jason Wilcox, if Jason Wilcox is coming in, I think Sancho will be at the club and he will absolutely flourish, and that won't be with Erik ten Hag. I think some of these players are, I don't want to say down in tools, because there is some of them out there that are giving a lot of passion, a lot of fight. Bruno looks like he's really trying things, but again, we know Bruno, he will always fight to the end, sometimes to his own downfall. He'll do too much and will lose the ball too much, but different conversation. I think some players are out there fighting for Ten Hag. I think some are sort of losing it a little bit with him. There's been a few results recently which just haven't gone in the correct way, and I think we are looking at probably the end. Based on the result on the weekend, based on the performances over the last month, 1 win in 7 games, I think we're looking down the barrel. And I think it's an upsetting thing, because he genuinely was brought in and he was very excited. I was absolutely buzzing when we got Ten Hag. I thought, you know what? When he come out with the quote of all eras come to the end, I was ready to, go through with him. But over the last 3 weeks to a month, it's just gone completely downhill. And I think it's probably time to wipe our hands of it. The only issue for me is who's out there to replace him. And if it's Gareth Southgate, I'd rather keep with the project, believe in Ten Hag. If the other version is Southgate, I think it's just a complete waste of time. This could be a huge summer in terms of replacements, just in terms of manager, but also in terms of our central defence midfield position, because Casemiro is likely to leave the club this summer, and that's from Disco Mirror. And I think it's a very good source, and I think it's quite a realistic thing to happen as well. I think there's a world where both himself and Varane both leave the club. I think the new ownership is quite sure of the fact they want to try and reduce this wage bill, reduce some of the older players out of the club, get a nice young hungry squad in. I think removing players like Casemiro and Rafa Varane are probably going to happen, and I'm not going to say it's a good thing, because there's a lot of experience leaving the club, but it is a nice fresh start. I think we went for it. We brought in Casemiro, Varane, Ronaldo, and we absolutely went for it with Solskjaer. It didn't work. We move on. It is what it is, and we have to wipe our hands of it. And another player it looks like that's going to happen with as well, and this is from Fabrizio Romano, is Anthony Martial will leave Manchester United at the end of the season, no doubts. He'll pick his favourite option as his next club in the coming months. He's fully focused on recovering from his injury. Now, this is the Ballon d'Or kid. This is the one we all had our hopes and dreams on, and we seem to have pre-season Martial, we have NHS Martial, but realistically, Anthony Martial, he's just not done it in a United shirt for long enough. He had a period where he was our top goal scorer. There was a season where him and Rashford, I believe, both got 20 plus goals, and it was absolutely fantastic. But now sitting here, 2024, Martial, too many injuries, it's done. And it looks like, finally, I think after a couple of years of a lot of United fans thinking it is done, Martial will be leaving the club. He will pick his favourite option at the end of the season. He is fully focused on recovering from injury, and that is from the big man himself. But Fabrizio Romano has confirmed Martial will be leaving the club, and absolutely no doubt on it. And the final story is a big one indeed. Manchester United remain optimistic of getting Jason Wilcox in time for this summer. Southampton want an excess of 12-month salary to prevent a year-long notice. Talks continue this week and could move quickly, from Ben Jacobs as well. So again, a very reputable source. Jason Wilcox, the signing of Jason Wilcox is fantastic. Obviously, Manchester City was massively involved with the academy, involved in bringing the players up. I think even Frimpong might have been there at a similar time, Manchester City, to when Jason Wilcox was there. Obviously, Sancho as well. There's lots of players that go for that City academy which end up leaving and going to have fantastic careers, or even at the City club like Phil Foden owe it to Jason Wilcox. And he is a fantastic he's going to come in to be our sporting director. I think the rumours are at the moment that he's going to come in as director of football until we get the whole thing with Dan Ashworth sorted out, and then he'll go back into being a sporting director role, and he's going to be massively influential in the pathway for youngsters getting into the first team. I think we're very good at doing that anyway with Manchester United, who've got the longest record in history that will never die of using a youth player in the first team. And someone like Jason Wilcox just adds to that. Fantastic developing, young players. Fantastic in terms of mentoring as well. And I think there's a massive coup for the club. It really is at the moment looking like getting the best. Barada, Jason Wilcox, Dan Ashworth, they are the best in class. And it's a massive coup if we do get Jason Wilcox in. Pay the 12-month salary, in my opinion. Get him in, and it's done. But we are going to go over the rest of the stories. Jeremy Frimpong looking like we have had massive concrete talks of him. That's per Christian Falk and Court Offside. £34 million release clause. Go and get him. He is a fantastic attacking fullback. Not great defensively. Does it worry you? Down in the comments down below. Is Frimpong a system player? Is he going to struggle moving to the Premier League and going into a 4-back system? 8 goals, 8 assists. Could you do it at United? Let me know in the comments down below. In terms of Alejandro Garnacho, Erik ten Hag has addressed Garnacho personally after his likes on social media on Saturday, where he liked posts from Mark Goldbridge and done a zipped up emoji. After the game, a Manchester United spokesperson said the matter was dealt with internally, but declined to clarify whether Garnacho has been outright disciplined. And that sort of goes on with Rob Dawson, saying Manchester United are content that Garnacho has backed away from a potential row with Ten Hag, unlike Jadon Sancho, after liking social media posts criticising the manager. However, Garnacho's actions will still be dealt with by Ten Hag. So I think it makes it seem like there is going to be some disciplinary from Garnacho. Some Man United players are delaying decisions on their futures as they expect Ten Hag to be sacked in the summer. I don't think that's a realistic thing to think. People aren't doing that. Someone like Sancho might be excited to come back to United if Ten Hag is not there. Someone like Hannibal Mejbri. There could be players like Casemiro who thinks, the right manager, we could go for it next season. Varane, the same. Youngsters as well who might get a chance under a new manager. I think a lot of players are going to be doing this. We don't know the situation for next season just yet. We have to wait and see what things are. On the scene of Casemiro, it is likely he's to leave the club. That is per Disco Mirror. I think we can all see that happening there. And the top comment here is his replacement, or two of them indeed, Onana or João Neves. Which one are you going for? A João Neves main midfield excites me a hell of a lot. That would be incredible. And with Bruno in front as well, absolutely fantastic. Anthony Martial will leave Manchester United at the end of the season, no doubts. He'll pick his favourite option as his next club in the coming months. He's currently focused on recovering from his injury, and that is per the big man, Fabrizio Romano himself. So that's looking like that's going to be confirmed. And finally, Manchester United are optimistic of getting Jason Wilcox in for this summer. Southampton want in excess of 12-month salary to prevent a year-long notice. Talks continue this week and could move quickly. A massive thank you for watching the video. Make sure you're liking the video, subscribe to the channel, and also follow mufcMPB on Twitter to keep yourself up to date on all the relevant news. It's been your boy Kempy, and I'll speak to you next time.